Welcome back. I've been in contact with one of my longtime viewers and subscribers whose name is also Chris, and the two of us have actually had quite a bit of conversation back and forth with each other. We actually both thought it'd be a really cool idea to do a collaboration video. You see, I noticed that Chris has one of these halogen work lights, as of course I do, and we were talking about how cool that'd be to convert it to LED. In fact, he actually went so far and said that he uses his for video work. Obviously, he has a channel here on YouTube, but he took the little grills off here because it was creating a pattern, so he just has the raw glass behind it. But as you can imagine, two 250 watt bulbs ends up being quite hot. Now again, he only has a single lighter, but I said, you know, I actually have been thinking about doing that. And well, I managed to get the parts in, and as part of the collaboration video, I'm going to be sending Chris some of those parts so he can actually build his own unit. So the idea is that this is going to be kind of a reverse mailbag, where this will be the box going out to him, and I'm going to release this video before he actually receives this stuff, because there are some things here that it would be good to explain what they actually are, and I think it'd be kind of neat to show that off to my viewing audience. And there's some other things here that will be obviously not included in this video because they're going to be a surprise. However, I will do a second video on the matter that will obviously air once he has everything in his hands and the surprise has already been finished, I guess you could say. So I'll go over some of the stuff here, and this is a good way to segue into actually the future videos. So at some point I'm going to record a little skit, and it's going to be introducing the pieces that I'm giving him, and hopefully he's going to edit that into his final video, and then I'm going to get some snippets of his video back and I'm going to edit it into a video of my own. So here's what we're talking about. Obviously you saw the main unit. Well, you gotta power this up from something, and you gotta have an LED to power up. So here's the LED. Now this is a 10 watt warm white LED. It's just a simple bulb. I mean, they're pretty standard. I actually have a 10 watt bulb in my desk lamp up overhead here that I'm using to illuminate the surface here in cool white. And I ordered a few of these. I think it was the 5-pack, and one of them we just completely decimated in the name of science. If you may remember that episode, it was the cheap LEDs versus good cheap LEDs, and well, that left me with 4. I need one for my desk lamp so I can switch back and forth between warm and cool white. That leaves me with 3. I need 2 bulbs for my halogen conversion for that work light, and he only needs 1. So I figured, well, there's the one. And then I picked up a bunch of these guys. Now these are 110 or I should say 120 volt down to between 9 and 12 volt DC. And this is just a little miniature switch mode power supply, and I just have this a little zip tie stuck to it just to keep all the wires nice and bundled up. But the large black and the large white wires here are the hot and neutral, and then the red and black wires, the thin ones, that's your DC out, red being positive, black being negative. Pretty simple device, but this is going to be used in that conversion. And also going along with that is some heat shrink tubing of various sizes. Just because I have so much of it, I figured I'll snip them off some of those pieces just to make that a little bit easier. We mentioned something about a 12 volt battery pack, which he actually has one, and I think he said he's actually going to send one to me, which would be pretty cool. I'll have to review that if I get it. But I thought sending him one of these would be pretty neat. Now this is a voltmeter. It's a little LED voltmeter, I should say. And this has got 3 wires, red, black, and white. Red again being positive voltage, black being your negative or ground, and then the white one's going to be the sense voltage. So you can tie white and red together and it'll sense whatever power you hook into it. Or if you're using this to build, let's say maybe a battery tester, you can use the red to power the device, and then the white wire be the one you're actually going to test. So I know he'll have some uses for this thing. This is the green one. I've featured this again in other videos just to show that I've gotten it and what we can use it for. This I picked up again, a pack of 5, and I know I have one of them already in use in a project. The other 3 are going to be for building another power supply like this guy up here. You see I have one in each different color here, but they'll all be the same. And well, Chris is going to get the last one out of the set. So that's another little snippet I think you can use pretty usefully. I have a whole bunch of these. These are little panel mount 120 volt AC output jacks, I guess you can call them, sockets, jacks, panel mount jacks. As you can see, they have little ears on them, so you just cut a square hole out, and then this fits in from the front and pops into your finished device, whatever it's going to be, and then you can just either solder directly on, or you can actually clip directly into, using spade clips, your wires here. And just to show you what this is going to look like when this is done, if you look at my desk lamp here, there's one of them right here, although upside down, but that's actually the exact same fitting that goes into that. This lamp came with that, by the way. I'll zoom in a little bit because I know it is dark to see. But I know he, like I said, he has a battery box that he did some stuff with, and I'm thinking maybe he can down the road put some kind of an inverter inside the battery box, and then obviously use these to be able to get outlets on it and not have to actually hack the one he has. You can just modify it and put these into it, so that might be useful to him. And speaking of some useful things, piece of perf board. This is just standard double-sided board, very useful. I have a bunch of these because I just happen to get extra, because you can always use perf board, so I figure I'll include that. Maybe perhaps you can use this in this project. But I'm also going to include a double pole, double throw switch, and this is called an on-off-on switch. So the middle position is actually off, so you can flick one way for on, and then another way for on, and then again middle off. You could use this maybe as like a high-low speed kind of switch, or different voltages. Like I've done this with fan controllers, where you have 12 volt on one way for high speed, off in the middle, and then 5 volt in the other direction for low speed. Or I've actually used this in circuits for selecting between AC input and battery. And I'm working on a project right now that's going to utilize that. That's actually going to get included in this, but that'll be part of the follow-up secondary video. Then I'm going to include one of these little amplifier systems. This is an audio amplifier. Now this takes a range from 1.8 up to 15 volts DC on this side over here. You also have either RCA audio inputs here, or you can connect various inputs over here. Now the catch to this is there's no volume control on this. Your input has to have the volume control on it, so you're actually attenuating the sound coming into this, lower or well, back up to 0 again, I guess you could say. And they're really useful. There's a lot of stuff you could do with them. They're not overly powerful. They're really designed to be headphone amplifiers, but I have driven small 8-ohm speakers with it. And it does get kind of loud. When you get to a certain point, though, it does distort. So you have to kind of fine-tune to what you're going to use this for. But for example, I built little boom boxes out of there where you just plug your cell phone into it and a set of speakers, and the thing works fine. I've also used this as like a prop. So maybe Halloween, you can set up a little microphone system someplace and use this to amplify your voice. There's a variety of different things. Now the kit does not come with the little terminals on here. I included that on here, nor does it come with the little IC socket that's under this chip. That's another thing I included. These can also be built mono or stereo. I should have mentioned, if I didn't already, this is a 2 by 1 watt. If you build it in mono, it's 1 by 2 watt. And I'll actually just show real quick, since I have them in front of me. This is what one of the mono ones look like. So you can see it only has 1 input as opposed to 2. Same thing over here, there's only 1 input. And you can see there's more resistors, less capacitors. Pretty much the end of that. I mean, it's pretty simple design. They do have 4 terminals on the stereo one still, because you're actually doing a bridge tide load. So one side's your positive, the other side's your negative. Whereas this, each speaker gets their own terminal. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to that. It's a pretty simple design. In fact, here's the first one I built. I even signed my name on the bottom of it. This is from, I think, 2014 or 2011. I can't really tell, the markings rubbed off on it. It might be 2011. So it just goes to show you how long I've had this in my little collection here. But they're fun little devices, and I think Chris might have a use for it. Since I have the drawer open, this is what one of them looks like. This is just the surface mount version of it with the volume control. So this is a 10 kilo ohm linear audio taper. I should say audio taper, not linear taper. Volume knob, and then this is your input. So instead of on this one, they give you the input here, but instead of using that one, you're using this because you can attenuate the volume via this knob. Moving on to the next thing I have in a bag, just to keep it neat, is a set of magnets from a hard drive. And the actual armature sits in between here, and it pulses back and forth, and that's what makes the little head move. It actually kind of sits like that, and the back end of it sits in here with the pivot point right about here. And you can actually separate these. There's nothing holding them together other than magnetism. And the bracket's set up so there's actually attracting forces in between here. So if you put something in, it'll either stick to the top or the bottom. But given that they're spaced apart, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. At one end, this is holding itself apart from each other, and at the other end, they're trying to draw into each other because of the magnetism. So if you shuffle this any way, left or right, this thing will collapse on itself. But if you manage to separate these two carefully, you can actually use this for a lot of stuff. For example, here in my lab, I actually have these on a wall where they're separated apart like this, and then you can actually use it to take a tool and stick a tool directly to it. Now, this is aluminum, obviously, this wouldn't stick. But screwdrivers, rulers, you know, different metal objects like that will stick to it. And you can see even through the shielding over here, it still has some pretty good magnetism to it. But yeah, very strong magnets. I got a bunch of these from salvaging out some hard drives. And I know I've used them before many different times for many different projects, so I figured that'd be something really cool to include. There's going to be an SD card, or in this situation a micro SD card with one of these adapters, and that's going to contain all the little footage pieces that Chris will need to edit into the final video. And it's just easier to send it this way, and if he's sending me something, he can stick this in the box and send it back with whatever thing he's sending me. There's a little piece of wire here. This is just some solid core, I believe 24 gauge wire. I'm sorry, it's 22 gauge wire. And well, that's going to be useful for maybe this LED conversion or whatever other little project he has down the road. And that leaves, well, a couple more things. One of these is what's called a Mixie Stick. Now, I got this from BigClive.com, who again has a channel here on YouTube. And this is simple. I'll put a link to the video that, well, at least I made this one in. And if I find it, I'll put Clive's video in this, at the end of this as well. But this is a very simple device using neon indicators. There's 10 of these here hooked up together. And one side you hook up line to, the other side you hook up neutral to, 120 volts, and these things will randomly dance about. Of course, it's a little dangerous because you can, you know, grab these and have it be live, so this has to be built into a final project. I built one of these for my dad and put it inside of a wine bottle. There's this one, and then I also have a couple smaller versions of it. One of them's on a circuit board, which I'm not going to really dig out right now. And then the other one I have on a micro bulb base, and that's what this guy is here. So you can see it's the exact same thing. This one I just oriented the little bulbs facing upwards, and this one all facing outwards, kind of like a little bloom. And all I did to make this was I took a bulb that was just damaged and broke the glass off of it and actually just soldered everything in directly. Now this one does have some kind of a coating on it. It's actually like Plastidip. So that's just to prevent any nasty shocks from this thing if you happen to accidentally grab it. But this is just a little simple little lamp holder here that I have to screw it into. This is going to get built into something final. I'm actually going to screw this into a little piece of wood. I'm going to put some kind of a clear piece of glass on top of it. I'm not sure what the idea is going to be for the final design, but I'm going to send Chris one of these as well so he can perhaps fuss with it himself and make something cool with it. Lastly, and this is the only thing I'm going to show at the end of this video, the other object will obviously be in another video, but it's very similar to this. This is a little flashlight, I guess we'll call it. It's just got 4 super bright LEDs on it in a circle with 2 resistors, and it's just a simple little device. You can see just some traces on the back there. And this is just, you know, again, something he could build to a final project, maybe use it as a little mini camera light, maybe do something with it. We'll see. It's up to him to decide what to do with it. And the last thing, which again is going to have a separate video, is very similar to this. It has more LEDs, a different color, and it will possibly do something, possibly not. We'll see. But that's really all I wanted to say in this particular video. So I'm going to put a link down to some of those other videos I mentioned, and I'll also put a link to Chris's channel at the end of this video. So if you guys want to check him out, I highly suggest doing that. Chris has a daily vlog type show where he talks about different projects he's either made or would like to build, or does unboxings or whatever. really broad spectrum type of channel, but I like that, which is really cool. And anyway, well, thank you guys for watching this video, and we'll see you guys next time.